just tell you a little bit about them independently. So Justine is an independent film producer, and she oversees the legacy of The Harder They Come. One big drama happened in New York last year, just the year before. Last year, the 50th anniversary of The Harder They Come, and big things were happening in New York. Jamaica's #1 feature film, if you recall, which was co-written and produced by her dad and directed by her father. That's correct, Perry Hensel. And Justine sits on the oversight committee of what has recently been announced, the Jamaica Screen Development Initiative. And this is a fund which we hope that persons will benefit from, that she lobbied for about 2 decades. And she's a founding member of the Jamaica Film and Television Association. Now, to my left is Natalie Thompson, head of Cinecom Productions. I'm particularly beholden to Natalie because when things are happening and she needs somebody who can help with the Jamaican thing, I'm she call. So that's how come me get a little walk from the Bob Marley film. Some of you in here don't understand we have 2 languages. You're looking at me when I say film like something is wrong. It's a Jamaican pronunciation. Thank you, Leroy, and thanks for coming. And I hope you'll share your Bob Marley experience, which you shared with me recently. Now, Natalie, she has had this production company for decades and has worked with overseas producers on feature films, acting as a line producer. And line producers run the day-to-day operations on the ground. You don't want to know what that looks like, to make sure that every wheel spinning, all the welfare business taken care of, all the portaloo put on where they're supposed to put on, all the caterers are found and put in place, all the carpenters are where they need to be, all the photographers and videographers and sound people and people are moved chair all. And so sometimes when I look at her, she's just tired. And she has been telling me for about 5 years, I'm giving this thing up, I'm giving it up. And I just say, so you're giving it up, all right. Okay, so she's had to work with locations and budgets and supervising 5 to 40 people depending on the size of the film. And it is not just a creative position that she handles, but a management position like in any other operating company. And you say you've been doing this for 30 years. Natalie, we know it's more than 30. Try, don't lie. Oh, exactly. She was a great actress at Alpha Academy, you know, when I first saw her acting, and so people don't know. And if you have not yet seen Champion, go and see episode 7. All right. Episode 6. She does very well in there. One piece of horrible woman, the acting was perfect. Okay. Natalie, thank you for your years of service. Now, this gentleman here, there's just something about, if I had a camera, I'd take your picture right now. He's always just so, you just capture him on canvas. If I could have paint, but then they run me out of art class because I just didn't have any sense of proportion. Johnny, it's good to see you. This is Johnny Black, photographer, but not just a photographer but Bob Marley as well. Yes, big man in music and in terms of loving it and being around it and supporting it. And he's worked with nearly all the reggae musicians who emerged between 1975 and he's an avid sportsman. Did you play football with Bob?
Yes, ma'am.
See there now? Anybody who did anything had to play football with Bob. Right, so here we are. Welcome once again. Welcome to you seated here at Regardles and also to you online. I want to thank Dennis and his team for making this happen online. We may be having a little audio problem, so we might have to share the same mic. But I want to begin with you, Natalie, as line producer, and also, it is more than line producer, to just tell your story in terms of Bob Marley and so much things to say, and we'll start us off and where we're going to go.
Good evening, everybody. I think I should start by saying that this Bob Marley film was about the 12th Bob Marley script that came onto my desk over the last 30 years, or even longer, because soon after Bob died, there were people who wanted to create films about his life. And so there were countless films, countless scripts that were written. I walked with writers, I walked with producers from different studios before this one came up. And a lot of them is the family that did not want them made. for whatever reasons, there were reasons that it were not. And it is your privilege if you do not want a film made of somebody in your family. And they objected to a lot of them. And then there were other reasons. Some of them were just not the right people to tell the story. And they would have told a cliched story or a story that, you know, didn't really make sense. I think, personally, I feel that Bob's life is bigger than one movie. And I think we all agree that that is what happened, why this was just a slice. I remember speaking to a Marvel producer who said to me, it cannot be done. Bob's life cannot be done in one movie. It has to be a series. And nobody had taken on that challenge, so they kept writing different kinds of films. They tried to do the whole story, they tried to do a part of the story, but it really didn't work. This one, I think, went into production maybe about 3-4 years ago when I first heard that Paramount was joining with the family to produce a script. And there were several scripts before this iterations, as the word goes, before this final iteration came, and the film was quite different from the iteration of the last script that was given to us. But I think when I got the call, I said, this looks like it, because the family was involved from the beginning, and it seemed as if they were determined. There were a lot of writers involved, a lot of story editors, and then finally it came down to Frankie Flowers and I don't remember who it was. Who was it? Zach Balin, who submitted the final script. But there were a few other writers, some of whom we know, who were also involved in getting to this final story that came out as a final script. And then again, it was shot and edited again into another story. But I think, I don't know if we all agree, and I know a lot of people won't agree, but it was not an easy story to tell. And it was not an easy story to perform either. And whatever happened to the end, they got a story told which was semi-accepted by the Jamaican audience and pretty well accepted internationally. I don't work on the creative side. It was a difficult movie from our side. I don't know if I'm talking too long. No, but
you're putting it in context.
Yeah, it was a difficult movie on our side because it was such a huge movie, and we were so emotionally involved in the telling of this story because everybody on the set had a Bob Marley, had an idea of what they would have wanted to see. I saw every inch of this movie that was shot because I got the dailies every day on my desk. I didn't have the time to watch everything, but I sort of had an idea. And I will tell you one story before I give back the microphone. When Kingsley Ben-Adair first came to Jamaica, I was the one who met him and took him around and sort of showed. The first thing I said to him, the night he came off the plane, I said, if you don't get the accent right, brother, Jamaica going to tear you up. So you have to become Jamaican. He says, why is everybody so over-concerned? And I said to him, you have to get it right. You are somebody coming to play Bob who does not actually look like Bob. You're 6'1". Bob was not 6'1". And, you know, and you sort of maybe the look. But he is a brilliant actor, and he was passionate about the part, and willing to learn. And that is why he was able to give this wonderful performance. And, but...
Well, you have that when I tell them how many people Jamaicans worked on it.
Okay. There were 400 crew members that I controlled every day. I mean, I didn't control them, sorry. They were controlled by their department heads. That would be quite a challenge. But the day-to-day operations, we had 400 people, but there were about 2,500 people worked because people came in to do different things, and that included actors and extras as well. So there were 2,500 Jamaicans who were involved in the production. We were large, very large, and all over. A lot of money was spent on the island. I know it has been publicly said what the budget was. We did not get all that money. There are a lot of rights that had to be paid. As let me just say that. A lot of the money didn't go into the actual production. And that's it. A lot of things had to come in, but a lot of things were used from here. And a lot of people were touched financially by what we did.
Thanks, Natalie Thompson. I see a few people. There. If you wish to come in, we have. You're okay there? Okay, because there are 2 chairs here, 2 here, etc. I don't know how I'm going to manage this, not Dennis, because I feel like I'm going to dry out of the connection. Okay, just give me, all right, give me as much as you can, because this is the only mic that seems to be working. Diane, Natalie said that after Bob died, she got about 12 scripts. You were Bob's attorney. Did you know of what might have been happening after he passed? And then tell us about your relationship with Bob as his attorney.
Well, I thought I was here to talk about the movie, our relationships.
Yes, it's about the movie.
Yeah, well, I was Bob's attorney. And as he told people, I was his sister. So I was his sister in faith. No, I'm going straight to the movie, because I didn't come here to talk about myself. Okay. The problem with the movie, and there was a problem, and you're right, Bob's life couldn't be told in one movie. This I consider, well, Natalie, you know, a teaser. A teaser. And I was a bit disappointed that I didn't see more of Bob Marley, the Rastaman, Bob Marley, the revolutionary, Bob Marley, the mystic, and, you know, there are other, I guess, aspects of Bob as a chosen one that I guess we were not ready for yet. But at least those, in these times of turmoil, I think that more of that aspect of Bob, the freedom fighter, the revolutionary, who fight for I mean, his fight was for truth and justice and freedom, you know, which is what it is all about, and peace, you know, one love. But the movie, I congratulate Ziggy and Sidella, who were instrumental in that movie, in giving a tribute to their mother. And as such, I think it was a great tribute to their mother. As I said, the other aspects of Bob is a series, really. You can't, you know, it's a series. And as a starter, yeah, the teaser is good, because it has gotten a lot of people more hearing the music. Now the next one will probably let them listen to the message, as opposed to the great entertainer. Well, they didn't really show him as the ladies' man. But at least, and credit to the children too, that they didn't emphasize the various baby mothers. It was, you know, concentrating on one, but on really Bob Marley, the entertainer, the musician. And I'm not too sure if that Bob Marley is the Bob Marley that is going to go down in history. It will be more the other aspects of Bob Marley. And the message, music was a medium. It was, you know, it was the message, not the messenger. But in this case, the messenger was important. And the actors did well. With Rita, she did a great job. But as to portraying that aspect of Rita, that entertainer, that smiling Rita, that woman that would have attracted Bob, you know, it wasn't there. But in all just, she would have met Rita in these last years, and it wasn't necessarily that, you know, entertainer Rita Marley, who we all know that, you know, Rita was a lively person. Yes. She was a little bit too serious. As I said to Steve, they should have had Bob smiling less and Rita smiling more.
Okay. Let me just bring it. Thank you for that. Thank you for your perspective. Greatly appreciated. And as you've said, and you've come back, I wonder how many other movies will be made showing the many different sides. Did they ask you to check that mic to see if it's working, Justine? Yes, all right. But I'm going to go to this gentleman. Yeah? Yes, I can hear you. It's not great, but I can hear. You can hear, right? When she spoke?
Testing.
Yes. Could you just turn up all the mics for me, the levels on all the microphones for me, please? So, Johnny, you saw the movie? Twice. It's interesting. I have been meeting people who've seen it 2 times and 3 times, and men in particular. So, Johnny, tell me about it. Why? It's Johnny Black.
Sure, is this right?
Turn it in. Photographers on microphone, yeah. Camera goes up, microphone goes up.
I had to see it twice because it so happened that everything happened in a movie. I was a part. I was there. The only thing place I wasn't was in London. Because at the time I was assigned to Prime Minister Michael Manley as his photographer in '76. I was at Jamaica hosted the planning of the whole concert, Smile Jamaica. And I was assigned cameraman, photographer for Smile Jamaica, so I had access to the stage. I was on the stage in the whole thing. The shooting, I was a part of 56. I was there quite often, so I got inside stories. The final show at the stadium, One Love, I was also the assigned photographer there. So I was there. What I'm saying basically is that I was very involved with the Marley family. I was Rita's photographer, Ziggy, all of them. So I was at their home, I was with Bob, I played football with Bob, I was in studio. One of the things I like to say is where I was particularly privileged is that Bob performed on stage for people, audience. That was a different Bob. And Bob always closed his eyes, if you look, because I'm there waiting for him to open his eyes, very rare. The assignments I had outside of that were from either Chris Blackwell or other people who I was assigned to go to 56 Hope Road. Most of my work on Bob is at 56. There was only one other person there most of the time, Chris, Joe Higgs, Francis Doher, quite a few, but it was Bob, myself, and somebody else. I was the only photographer. I always got the impression that Bob performed for me. For me. All his moves and his expressions, because he always accepted me. Bob has never put up his hand and said, "No, Johnny Black." And I had to be very careful. I was around him a lot. And there were times when I wish I could go to the car and take out the camera, but it would just spoil everything. But I can say there was never a time that Bob never posed for me outside of stage. At his home, everything, he always just did what he posed for me because he wanted me to take his photographs, football photographs with Joe Higgs, everything. It's not fair for me to judge a movie because there are a lot of things, everything in that movie happened, but it didn't happen that way a lot of times. So the first time I went, I sat in anticipation. Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? And when I left, I wasn't satisfied. I said, I have to go back. And I went back and I viewed it differently, totally differently. I love the movie. I loved it. I was a still photographer, countryman. I have an experience in movies. I know Jamaican actors. Same thing with Perry's movie. Jamaican actors. This movie, not Denzel Washington, Jamaican actors. They're great. The cinematography, great. The props, I'm props. I like to see what's behind, what's the jewelry, Rita's jewelry, everything, the props, the editing, the sound. Classic. I have no complaints. It did good for the sleeping minds, spiritual sleeping minds. That movie awakened a lot of people's minds. It allowed the Rastafari movement to get a springboard, to jump again. And those who were not in tune, they only dance and prance to Bob. They had a chance to really get the lyrics and this message, they started listening again. And who has never listened before has started to listen. That's what I have to say. Any questions, I'll answer.
Thank you, Johnny Black. So each time I look at a picture, you know you're going to come into my consciousness immediately. Especially those with Ziggy and Stephen as youngsters. Yeah. Let me just say, you mentioned props and stuff like that. Neville Garrick played a very important role on the making of this movie. It was a historian. It was a far more elegant, what was the title he gave Neville Garrick again? Anyway, but he was it wasn't just historian, it was something else. It will come back. But it was critical. Neville worked with Bob on all those shows overseas, and I am from the era. So we made sure, Neville and myself, that I'd be sitting and I'd look on and say, no, Rita wouldn't wear that. That's the kind of detail. And so then Ziggy would say to Neville or myself, or go talk to costume, or he would go and talk to costume, or no, they wouldn't say that because we never said that in the 70s. That's the kind of detail we were paying attention to, because me never want to come back here and nobody murder me. No, I don't know not about the creative side, but me know about the cultural side. Neville and I made sure, and so did Ziggy. Ziggy, I must tell you, I did not know Ziggy as an adult. I knew him as Ziggy and the Melody Makers. So I met this man, this husband, this father, and this person who was toe-to-toe with the director. He was fully involved in the making of this movie, every step of the way. Sidella came, sat in her tent, whatever we had, or in the but she was there, and she would make a comment about costume. So somebody who was here visiting about 6 weeks ago said every time Sidella come, them get frightened. They worked in costume. The white guy himself, because she always say, fix the costumes, that's not right, or whatever. That's the kind of detail. But Ziggy surprised me. I never heard him shout. I never heard him raise his voice. These things are important to me. Very important. And so I must tell you how proud I am of how he and his sister approached the making of this movie. Could we remember the phones, please, if you could just put them on silent? And don't forget, when you're leaving, the Edna Manley book is on sale on the outside. Do not leave without your copy. Now, Justine, you've been in the movie business. Your father made sure that it was in your DNA, and here you are. You've worked on the movie, you've seen the movie. What you have to see if your mic will work. Yes.
I think it's up.
Yes.
It's up?
Just project, because it's not fully up.
Project. I think, like Natalie, we're more comfortable behind the camera than in front of it, but here we are, and we have feedback.
No, go on, use yours. Use yours.
Like Johnny, I had to watch it twice. I saw it for the first time for the cast and crew screening, which was the night before the premiere, and it was I was so nervous about what I was going to see that I couldn't actually watch it as a film. I was watching for all the things that I thought might have gone wrong. And I was listening for all the accents that were going to be horribly wrong. And I was waiting to cringe, and I had none of that. My overwhelming sense when I saw it after the first time was one of relief. I was like, okay, all right, we have a film. We have an excellent film. And it is one version of one piece of a man's life. And the truth is that every movie is going to be subjective. It's not a documentary. It's a feature film. Yes, it is about a real-life person, but it is not a documentary. It's a feature film. And the director, along with the family, are going to take certain license in what they put in and what they don't put in. And as a filmmaker, you understand that you are going to record all these scenes, all this dialogue, but really where a film is made is in the editing room. From what was shot, many different types of movie could have ended up on the screen. Somebody put it really well. They said, we shot Exodus, and we edited One Love. And the same exact footage could have made both versions of that story, the revolutionary or the love story. And we have One Love. And I think it is a beautiful telling of that story. I think as Jamaicans, we can be immensely proud of the work that the cast and crew did. I've heard criticisms that Jamaicans should have made this movie. And I just want people to understand that Paramount has a scale that we do not have. It's one thing to have the $70 million to make the movie. It's another thing to have the additional $50 million to promote the movie. It's another thing to own CBS, so you can actually get on CBS Sunday morning, you can be at the Oscars, you can create all of those promotional moments. So it's not just the dollars, it's also the access. So we need to understand the scale of what somebody or something like Paramount does with a Jamaican story. And all the time, they were very, very careful and mindful about being respectful of our culture. And I think the Marley family would have it no other way. I think the Jamaican crew, with Natalie leading everybody, would have had it no other way. They'd have had a mutiny on their hands. But it never got to that. It never got to that. They understood that they were dealing with something that was very near and dear to all of us, and they treated it, I think, with the respect that the subject deserved, and I appreciated that.
I would add another R with reverence, because I was on location both in London and in Jamaica, and the producers from Paramount, always with respect and reverence to the story and the actors. And you mentioned Jamaican actors. I want to just tell you that the Marley band, the Wailers, in the movie were some brilliant young people. Sheldon Shepherd played Never Garrick and did it so well. It was a joke in London. They had a trailer for Sheldon who was playing Never Garrick. So one day, Sheldon got into the trailer and Never Garrick, the real Never sprawl out in the trailer. So they had to give Never Garrick, the real Never, a trailer. So you had Never Garrick one of it anyway. But the young man who played bass, his father was Family Man Barrett. And the young man who played guitar, no, Junior Marvin Pickney, who danced like him father. And I remember when Junior Marvin came to Jamaica, it's the same behavior, right? You understand? So I want to, at this point, acknowledge the Jamaican actors, the Jamaican people who worked on set on costume and makeup and everything. It's very important. I want to acknowledge the people who worked with the meals. We were never hungry. You get your breakfast first thing in the morning. By the way, a movie day is a long day, right? You go in, or you eat, and you start working at 8, and you're done at 6. Okay, but you have sometimes you have to go a little, all right, yes, sometimes I go a little over it, and you have lunch, and then you have snacks that you are applied with throughout the day. You have to be very careful on movies that you can put on weight. I want to acknowledge the security people. Everybody, it's not just the actors. Everybody who made this thing happen, and there were no incidents that happened, right? And we lost a wonderful location manager during the making of the movie. And this is going to help me to go to, what is the after effect of this movie? There have been charity things that are being done and have been done. Would you like to talk about your production, your location manager, and what was done in his honor?
Yes, it was a very sad time for us, because Colin was not only one of the senior location managers, Colin Smichael, on One Love. He was also a dear friend of mine, and he was the one who introduced us years ago to shooting on filming in Trenchtown. And he had a heart attack and died on a Sunday night when he should not have been working, but he was working. And the next day we were shooting at the airport, and I had to address the crew, and that was one of the most difficult days of my life, I can tell you, to address them. And I think Paramount recognized from everybody on the set how important Colin was to us, and they have done quite a bit. They put up an auditorium at Trenchtown Primary School in his name. It was opened the day the film opened in Kingston. And it was very touching down there. It was 99% ready. It's Jamaica, you know, there are all the permits and the this and the that and the other. So it wasn't 100% there, but it was just so very touching that we had this auditorium so that the children would not have to stand up in the hot sun. And on Jamaica Day this year, there were pictures taken of the children performing inside this auditorium. It's just such a wonderful thing. They are also working with the Rollins Foundation in Rosetown and quite a few other things. I think they have a few other connections that they have made to help the Jamaican children primarily to move forward, and especially in the area that we go into an area like Trenchtown when we were shooting and we take over the whole place and we don't have a problem. That is what is so important. We have a lot of security. Yes, we have a lot of security down there because of where we are, and there's always one. But we did not have a problem down there. Because when you go into a neighborhood to film with a crew like this, so we're moving in with our 400 and the 400 from overseas. So 800 crew moving into Trenchtown and Rosetown, and we have a camp over at Boys Town where we have trucks and trailers, and we're just large and in charge. And when we do that, you have to involve the people of the community. You have to make them feel as if they are part of this production. And this is what we did there. And I think it was recognized. We also had a seminar, which was part of the deal that with Paramount, that they would come and do this seminar. We also had a seminar on, when was it, Tuesday? Tuesday at the University of the West Indies, to try to get university graduates to understand that this is an industry that they can consider. So I mean, I think that's it. I mean, there's so much in the head going on now, but I'll give you back to Faith.
Okay. Just before I open the floor for questions or comments, I also want to acknowledge, when Natalie first called me about this movie, I think Paramount wanted to ensure that the language was a language of the time and the period. And I said to her, get in touch with the Jamaica Language Unit at the University of the West Indies. I don't know if you're aware of this, but we do have 2 languages in Jamaica, 2 real languages. It's not just English, all right? 2 real languages. And so the Jamaica Language Unit does that. So Dr. Joseph Farquharson was the person they contacted, and he did a really brilliant job working with Brett Tyne, who was working in England before I got there with Kingsley. And she went through those ropes of learning to read and write the Jamaican language. You know, when you read the Gleaner on a Sunday and Carolyn Cooper writes, and you see she has a column that says chaka spelling, and a column that says proper spelling. Well, Brett learned the proper spelling. So she would write over Kingsley's scripts in the proper spelling. I'm not joke, man, a serious business we're going with. You understand? And of course, there are certain sounds that the lived experience can bring that it don't matter, right? So I would polish and fix and so on, and you know. All right, you've heard a bit from us, and I'm going to ask if you have any questions, and of course, just tell us who you'd like to answer. Yes? Mas Damien, there's a microphone here, so I don't know if you can reach to it, or if somebody can get it to you. Damien King. Careful.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, I think there is if I may, a veneer of too much homage and politeness to the movie and the experience. that I think is preventing us from having a discussion about some of the real issues with this movie. It's a fantasy to say that Bob's, even though true, that Bob's life can't be told in one movie. You only get one movie. A Bob movie is not going to come out year after next, because this movie has sucked up the energy and the audience interest. So as much as we would like it to be a movie every year, for which this is a teaser, this was the chance that we got. This was the chance that we got to tell the story of a courageous, boundary-smashing revolutionary who sang about war and Africa unite and bombing a church because the preacher was lying, and who wanted to burn down Babylon to get to where the oppressed were liberated and we could get to one love. How did that emerge from somebody who was raised on public lands, sleeping on cold ground, with a rock pillow, being a half-breed? This is a complex, brilliant man who emerged from difficult conditions. That's a story to be told. And the problem is that the family was involved. The problem was that Ziggy was fully involved. If you're going to tell the story of Charles Manson, you're not going to have his son being involved every single day, or his mother. So that was the source of the disservice, to tell the real story of one of the most powerful and important and iconic figures of the century. Now, are we going to, and the problem is that to disagree in a way that this is not the Bob that will go down in history. That is what I fear. That this dorm room poster is the Bob that might go down in history, because this is the Bob that most people of this generation have seen, and not the real, courageous, and proper Bob.
Johnny wants to respond to you. Thank you so much.
Can you?
Johnny, then Diane, then Natalie. Go ahead.
Okay.
Turn the microphone.
Okay. Everyone who has ever known or seen Bob Marley can tell a story. There's nobody who I know who has not had seen Bob or with him. That they have a long story. He's such a fascinating person. Now, why I'm saying this, I happen to know Esther Anderson. I happen to know Esther Anderson because I was close to Esther when she had her house in Little Bay. I used to visit her. She was doing photography before me, and we used to, the stories that Esther told me about Bob, Bunny, and Peter, they're going to build a studio down there. She had pictures she showed me. There was a life with Esther Anderson, early Bob Marley, before, just after it. That's a story by itself. Bob, Peter, Bunny, Alan Cole, trying to get Bob's work to Never Willoughby at RGR. That's another story. When Bob left, before Bob went over to Chris, the promoter, Diane, you remember who was the promoter that Bob did some music with before he came back to Chris? He died recently. And Alan Cole is mixed up with the book. No. Okay. There's another story. Scratch Perry. Hold on. There's another story. Cindy. There are so many stories of Bob Marley, it cannot be told. in one episode. That movie is not a movie. It's a movie. It's not a life story. Those who knew Bob like Diane and myself, that doesn't cover anything, really. So if you're going to look at that movie and judge, that's a little nip. There are about 5 more movies that Bob's life can be seen.
Yeah, I totally agree with the person who spoke. I was trying to be as Mr. King. I was trying to be as diplomatic as possible and giving credit and saying it was a tribute to Rita. You are totally right. Where is that Bob Marley, a man from the simple man from the hills, who formed his own record company, who had his own label, who was touring with his own, all that is left out. Why? Don't blame Ziggy. Ziggy was a child in those when Bob even died. They weren't big people who knew the relevance. Maybe up to now they don't know the significance of their father. But so you can't blame them. I blame Neville Garrick. Mr. have his own trailer. Because no, because Neville was around for a few years, and in those years it was the side of Bob that he was exposed to. Was Bob the entertainer? Bob the ladies man, because I think he double dated with one time. So that is the aspect of it. I didn't see Garrick there when the peace concert was being done. I didn't see Garrick in the ghetto when Bob was there with his brethren. No, but the doctor said Garrick was not a good friend, and maybe Bob was his best friend, but was he Bob's best friend? I don't know. Was people like Skill Cole consulted? I don't think so. Somebody played me, but nobody ever asked me whatever dialogue I was there or what happened. But I guess Neville Garrick contributed to that dialogue. Who did it then? I don't say don't do that, because all I'm saying that nobody said to me, and nobody I know consulted Judy Moore, Master Griffiths, or any of those persons about what Bob, reality of Bob. So what you're getting is a commercial, palatable Bob. Bob the entertainer, Bob the, whatever. That is the Bob they're presenting, and you're right. Who knows if there'll be another Bob Marley movie? There should be, but, and how many people have seen it more than once? I don't know. Is that, any movie that make on Bob should be on the line for Oscar and whatever, Grammy. Is this one? No. So, but it's commercially, it's a success. Everybody going to see it at least one time, and this is the image they're going to leave with Bob. Bob will get Bob's return.
That's hot.
I don't know if I really want to answer, but I will answer. I disagree that the series can't be made. The series can be made. It can still be made. Johnny named some of the episodes, and there can be more, and people will watch. How many people in here saw the Kevin MacDonald documentary on Marley? That was made 12 years ago, and that told every side. Go home, go on to, what is it? Amazon, Netflix, it's there. That is a documentary that tells the entire life of Bob Marley, interviewing his relatives, interviewing friends, people who knew him, and that tells the entire story. And then you will understand how it is, but it's a documentary. This is admittedly a commercial version, entertainment, and it was successful. It opened the mind to the music of Bob Marley. And I beg to differ with the people who were consulted. I don't know if they took anything they got from it, but I was there for Judy Moore's interview. I mean, I know that Marcia Griffith was spoken to. I remember you came down to the Rock and spoke to the director. Skill. I was not there. I was not sitting at the table with you. Anyway, I remember Skill coming, but I knew Skill was not cooperative because Skill felt that he knew Bob better than anybody else. But since this story was told around England, and we know that Skill was not in London, he was gone to Africa. Yeah. So. No, it wasn't, but that is what the film was about, mostly of Bob in London and the production of the album Exodus. That was what it was about. And, but I disagree. I mean, this is a part about, I think it is a teaser, I think it is a taste, and I think anybody who took those, what Johnny mentioned, those chapters, those episodes, the episode of Skill himself is 2 episodes, because Skill was Bob's best friend. Bob wanted to be Skill and Skill wanted to be Bob. Now, I met Bob Marley only a couple times because I used to be a fixer in those days. And so when European people would come to do interviews at 56, I would accompany them and set up, and Bob would run past my house at East King's House Road often and say, "Daughter." That, I mean, you know, but I can't say I knew the man. But I worked on Kevin's documentary, and I also worked with Jonathan Demme, who was making the documentary before Kevin. But his story was rejected. Why? Because Demme told the story of Rasta and Bob. And it was not commercial enough for Steve Bing at the time to put that on the air. So he wanted a straight documentary of the life, which Kevin told very well. Jonathan's story kind of got very deep into Rasta, but showed how Bob was influenced by Rastafarian. That has not been seen by anybody. I had a chance to see it before Jonathan Demme passed, and now Steve Bing has also passed, so I don't know where the footage is. I think it's with Demme's footage at the University of Michigan or the University of Chicago or somewhere like that.
You know, one of the things I'm coming to you just saying, it's good to hear the institutional memory. And we've been talking about writing and putting down stuff, Natalie. I hope you've consulted somebody to get your stuff down. Yes, no, please. No, it's very important. So don't please and cut your eye after me, right? Once again, I want to thank the people online. Did we have any opportunity? Are they just watching, or is there any way that if they pose questions we could know? Yeah? If you pose questions we can know and then we can share it. Okay. Justine.
Yeah. So again, Damien, I hear you, but I disagree with you. Because I think what it has done is it has opened up Jamaica and Jamaican stories again in a way that we did not have an opportunity for before. So now people are talking about not just stories about Bob, but a whole universe of Jamaican stories that need to be told, and for the first time we've had a commercial success of a movie that's completely a Jamaican subject. That has never happened before, right? How Did They Come 52 years ago was a creative and critical success. It was not a commercial success. And no film that has come out of Jamaica has been a commercial success, and it is a business. And if we want to keep working and if we want to keep employing hundreds of Jamaicans in front of the camera and behind the camera, we have to make it a business. So we need to understand that side of things. The fact that the government saw the success of Marley, saw that the investment has paid off, and now has put $1 billion Jamaican towards supporting the creation of Jamaican stories. That for me is the biggest win of the Marley movie, is the fact that we get to tell more Jamaican stories by Jamaicans. We don't Bob is one person and one set of stories. There are many, many stories to tell from our island. And we have to make sure that the youth of the country have a chance to give their perspective. You know, basically, if you're 18 years old and Jamaican, you can apply to the JSDI for development money to talk about the story you want to tell on camera, whether it's a short film, a documentary, a feature, or an animation. That's important. There are Jamaicans all over with stories, with cameras on their phones, and there are stories to be told, a million of them.
When Paramount was at the university a few evenings ago, the new architecture theatre, Neville Hall Theatre, sorry, I'm dating myself, the Neville Hall Lecture Theatre, was packed to capacity. There were no empty chairs there. And it's not 20 or 30 people fit in that place. Right? 400 about. And you see, perhaps if you're not involved in the industry, you don't know that there are some young filmmakers in this country and doing, I'm coming, I see two hands there. I saw yours first, my sister. Yeah, I saw your hand first. But there is the Women in Film and Television Jamaica chapter, there's JAFTA, these things are happening, and they're showing their movies in the Caribbean and outside of the Caribbean. It's not where we want it to be, but things are happening. You have screenwriters and directors and, you know, so things are there. My sister, I didn't know you're not in St. Vincent.
I'm back home.
Oh, good. Welcome home.
No, this is very frightening because I'm agreeing with Damian King. I'm Maureen Weber, and it's very frightening because I'm agreeing with Damian, so we're in trouble. Listen, I get all the wonderful commercial things, but in a country like particularly ours, and I speak about the region and probably globally, where the youth and other persons are not motivated and activated on the basis of real issues and concerns, to leave that part of the story out, to leave the Exodus part of the story out for the Joyride story, to me, is an injustice to the political space and what his message was. And I really have to say that I hear all the things that are being achieved, or the commercial things, those are good things. But a country where 30% of the people vote, so they don't get issues, is not a country that I want us to live in. So that's my point.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you. You have a question, please.
I have a question and a comment.
Indeed.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
You can hear me okay?
Yes, very much.
My name is Kathy Thompson. So it's a pleasure to be here. I really am very pleased that we have this forum. I'm extremely pleased that you brought out, because I think everybody on the panel is very careful with their words, which at first I appreciated, you know, because there's no need for any animosity or any sort of disgruntledness. But I really appreciate that you brought out. But a friend of mine told me something once, and she said, Kathy, look through the windscreen and not through the rearview mirror. And to me, we need to separate the business from who Bob Marley is, because he continues to be, in from my point of view. And maybe those of us who understand the importance of social justice and the fact that he promoted it not just in Jamaica, but worldwide. In many ways, he's a prophet, you know, in my opinion. Yes. So I think we should take this as a way to move forward, because we can't do, the movie's already done, right? So that's why I said look through the windscreen and not through the rearview mirror. And for sure, I appreciate that you explained to us how the business is all about and everything. But from my point of view, it's the message that's more important. Yeah. So I end with a question, if I could, to Ms. Dobson. Could you tell us what you think the highlight of, because you said perhaps the highlight of who Bob was not portrayed in the movie? Do you mind sharing with us your thoughts?
Well, as I said, the Bob Marley who was the businessman, the Bob Marley who was the mystic, the Bob Marley, the Rastaman, and the message of Rastafari. The little snippets of the Rastaman and the man portraying Planner and all that is not getting that message through. To me, if I was to have done a movie, I would have called it Bob Marley, the Last Prophet. Oh, by the way, I appreciate all the fringe benefits that has flown from this movie and the building up and the benefit to the entertainment and the film industry and all that. But that surely is not what the main thing about a Bob Marley movie would be. The fringe benefits and the spin-offs. It's not the main thing, We should have a movie. Hey, I really appreciate all the effort and the money and how every person I know who I've met who worked on this movie said how important it was to them to be there and just being on that Bob Marley movie and the honor and how they wanted it to be so perfect. So all these little details, the clothes, this, that, but the essence of the movie, the script, that is where all the fine details should have been put in and worked out. And not the whole money spending on this and that and clothes and the little fringe thing.
Well, that is part of a movie.
Yes, it's part and it's important.
Yeah, very important part.
I appreciate how much has gone in, but I don't want to say it, how much I would have appreciated more if all this work had gone into a movie that I could look at and say,
Hans, I saw the lady first before I saw you, Mr. McIntosh. Is that Mr. McIntosh? No, I can't. Just a moment. Just before I come to you, I think Natalie, by the way, I love it. Bob Marley, The Last Prophet. I love that. But Natalie wanted to comment. I think she's going to approach Paramount.
No, are you hearing me?
Yeah.
I just want to say I don't think we are disagreeing with each other. I don't think we are at odds. This movie was a commercial movie. It's a biopic, and biopics are normally, they dip into fiction. And we know that there is some fiction in this movie. We went, that whole thing in England was a little fictional. And we admit that. And we have let Paramount have its day, and we look at it as a teaser. Maybe somebody will put forward the money to do this series because there are different stories in Bob's life which can be told as a story. It cannot be done for free.
That's right. All right. You wanted to speak, Johnny? For the lady, yes.
Ms. B.J. Peart.
Just say the name.
Ms. B.J. Peart. I am a Windrush washbelly. I'm also one of those who was afforded the opportunity of being sent to Jamaica to go to school from 7 to 14. I've lived in the UK, lived in New York, passed through here from time to time. The impact that I see are when our first, second, the dashway, the fullback, when those who throw stone behind them literally are gathering their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren and going to movie theaters. There are some who know that they are of Jamaican blood. I live in the Gullah Geechee Nation, Charleston, South Carolina. No farming pitney, no hospitality pitney left back there. So they are aware they have Jamaican roots. Some are of the age where this is the first time they have seen Jamaica on a large screen. They have some relatives who they've heard of Jamaica. They may have come and gone to a resort and gone back. This is the first time they've seen Jamaica on a large screen. Enough of them have no idea what Rastafari look like other than what they may have heard somewhere. They had a moment. I too had a moment. I need a little bit more water in the film because I was right in 8 Mile Bull Bay while them set up down there at the camp and I look down upon them. So when I can spot Copacabana, Piece of Jamnasia, 9 Mile. Oh gosh, we're not even going to talk about Cane River Falls and where them go down a hidden cove go do. I needed a longer part of that drumming because a good number of people in 8 Mile Bull Bay never get to see themselves in the clip. So again, the impact is when a granny who don't come back since the 50s get up our pitney them and have family reunions in the theaters. I have watched the pictures, whether it was UK, Canada, New York, wherever, they are gathering in the name of Jamaica. Bob got them there, but they are gathering in the name of Jamaica. They have now been teased a little bit. I am one who, I live by this. Give your children the gift of Jamaica, citizenship by descent. Give them then the passport, because enough of them are coming up. COVID showed them that they needed someplace else to live. The movie attempts to tell them there's a home to come home to, and they are coming. The impact is much more than the movie ticket. The impact, watch and see who are come home, watch and see how they invest, and watch and see how they're part of the country. Otherwise, you wouldn't have me a roam around you so right now.
Johnny's going to speak. You go ahead and then John will speak. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, and then John will speak.
Yes, Faye. O'Neill, Hamilton.
Oh, it's O'Neill.
Yes. I hope I haven't changed that much.
No, you haven't.
Hope not. My little preface in all of this. About 20 years ago, I had a chance to sit with someone who was at the Zimbabwe concert and had a fulsome description of what took place leading up to the concert, at the concert itself, and I was as enthralled as I was at 15, 16 in high school at the time. And so the revolutionary part of that was what made me the person I am, and it still resonates. And so I could have done with 240 minutes of revolutionary Bob. However, this is where now, with age and with some measure of sagacity, you say to yourself, well, if not Paramount, who was going to tell the story? Would you have a second bite at this apple? And I actually saw the movie in Geneva, and I spoke with a number of my colleagues from the UN. And they were really bowled over by this. Many of them, of course, had a context and an awareness and so on about this. But I was delighted because as they kind of went into the innards of the movie, a lot of what they were interpreting was what I thought was the message as a Jamaican in Jamaica when Bob was here. And so in that vein, I thought it was successful. And again, would I have preferred to have had 2 hours of revolutionary Bob? Heck yes. But we have to be realistic. And within that context, I thought the aims were really, really perfectly achieved. That's just my take.
Thank you.
And just to add, O'Neill, that there's actually people talking about a movie that should be called Africa Unite, which only focuses on Zimbabwe because it was such a pivotal and important moment. So that conversation is actually happening.
Sorry, on the Zimbabwe show, which I think was very important. I recall when the deputation from Zimbabwe came to ask Bob to perform at the Independence. It was 1 week before the Independence. And what they said was, Bob, we can't go back to Zimbabwe and say that you're not, tell them that you won't be there. Because when we were in the jungle fighting a war, it was your music that kept us going. So that's part of the importance of the revolutionary Bob.
You are a lawyer, eh? I'm telling you, it's that name that flew out of your mouth about 7 minutes ago, copyrighted. Just hear us sing. Bob Marley, the last prophet, copyrighted. You wanted to speak, Johnny?
Hello.
Try it. If it doesn't work, I give it up.
I had to look at that movie in a sense that Bob died in 1981, and all the people who born after 1981 knows nothing like what Diane and I said. I keep calling Diane because Diane was involved. And I was also involved. And what Diane knows, and I know, the movie doesn't depict a lot of things there. Think about the young people who didn't know Bob, only have heard his music. And this movie serves, it's a teacher. It's teaching, it is awakening them, it is teaching them, it is opening up. They don't know what happened in England. They don't know what happened at 5604. Diane know, I know. The inside stories, Diane know and I know. And these people don't know. They're innocently seen. So the effect that Diane speaks about, and maybe I'm also conscious of, it doesn't resonate to these people at all. So I would like us to start looking at it, as somebody said, it's a commercial movie. It's a commercial. Nothing there happened. That maybe the only thing I remember is, I say in London when Bob had his cocktail party with the I3s. I don't know if Dan can confirm. Bob isn't going to know cocktail party with I3s and drink wine. Bob's not going there. Little things like that. The making up of a town, coming to London to ask Bob to come back. That didn't go so. Rita never licked down Bob. I never said that. I mean, Diane can correct it. There's so many things that happen that, but I see it and I know. But I'm not disturbed. But I'm so pleased with what it had, the impact it has made. I have no complaints. I will not criticize anything about that.
Thank you, Johnny. I have some input here because we told people that they could watch online and we can't ignore them. Reggae Report says, I agree, Bob is a prophet. You're here to tell him what's with the name? Okay, right. Then Reggae Report again, who's going to approach a family for the rights to the next movie episode and who? Then Virginia Burke, fascinating perspectives. It is about how much of your truth and essence you're willing to sell out to achieve your next step. Bob faced this quandary daily once he entered the music business. Lorraine Smith, thank you, Miss Brenda, very well said. Home is home. I am not seeing any more just yet. But I think, you know, for those persons who, there are 45 people watching at this point. I'll just put it down if I could get back to it. We are going to go up until 8:35. We'll close off. So we're getting there. It's 8:13. Yes, I did see your hand a while ago again. Yes.
So,
come to the mic.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Again, I'm Kathy Thompson. You said Mr. Black, and you know stories that a lot of us don't necessarily know because you're very intimately, closely involved with Bob. And certainly people born after 1981 have no clue. So people even in my generation in the 70s, there were different groups that maybe had different interpretations or understanding of Bob. Like for me, myself, I grew to understand him and to recognize his power. So my question is, okay, do we have to use only a movie to promote his message? Can not all of us somehow promote his message, especially that of, again, social injustice? And that's all I say.
Thank you for that. Everybody has their role to play. Let me just acknowledge Busha Bandulu, Busha Bandulu. Thanks for this live. Thanks for watching Busha Bandulu. And Yvonne Weber. I'm certain Yvonne Weber is in somewhere like New Zealand. Australia. Yeah, Yvonne. She says, yes, Virginia. Yes, Virginia. Thank you, Yvonne. All right. Who else? We are now at 8:14, and we're going to ask the organizer to thank you at 8:20. Notice how my manager time? Yes. Is that thing with me? Yes, at 8:20. Julie, no, 8:20. Julie's going to come up and talk, and then we're done at 8:35. All right. Please, if you have a comment, Leroy, what was your experience with Bob Marley? Please share it. This is Leroy Brown. And we spoke recently, and he shared a fascinating story with me. I invited him only last evening, and he arrived. Leroy
Hands
Brown.
have been laid on me, and what sweet hands to do that. I have been a Bob Marley fan for a long, long, long time. And my greatest experience with Bob was when he had that concert at the National Stadium. I was involved within sports then, and I was put in charge of a part of this stuff. And one of the experiences that I had with Bob then is one I've never forgotten. I was in charge of the rehearsal. And when I saw Bob rehearsing that band, I couldn't believe what I saw. You have these philharmonic orchestras, and the composer, the conductor there, and that was Bob. I heard music that I was enjoying, and Bob said, no, 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 no. And he popped the guitar man, he said, no, 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 no. And he strummed, and then, yes, that's it. And then the band got together. And that 2.5 hours of rehearsal was one of the experiences that I will never ever forget. And of course, the concert itself was tremendous. The movie itself, I've seen it twice. And if I can, I'm going to see it again. I found it intriguing. And we see something else every time. And that actor, he did a marvelous job. And if the nuances, the little, he picked up all that little bit. And I said to him, I think you had a part to do with what he did. And let's accept it. This is just a little piece of Bob. But it is that teaser that is out there. And it has lit a candle. And you just have to keep lighting from yours going on. So I think this has set a spark, and I think it will do Jamaica and the world a lot.
Thank you, Leroy Brown. Just before I hand the microphone to Natalie, I don't know how many of you have been tracking Bob Marley's music record sales, what's happening on Billboard. And so new people, my sister who spoke so passionately about being a Windrush washbelly, let me tell you, new people who were never introduced to Bob's music have now been introduced to Bob's music, getting the message of revolutionary, but also of a lover man. Also some of the Three Little Birds. All of this is there. New, and the records they're going out, mashing up the charts.
Just very quickly, I want to talk about the impact. Everybody in this room has presumably seen this movie. Who has not seen it? Yeah, I know. That's my brother. He was supposed to come the first night. But apart from my dear brother there, who will probably see it one day, he was supposed to come on the cast and crew night, and he was upset that there were no seats left. Anyway, as a director of Citycom Productions. But what I'm going to say is that how many people in this room have seen Esther's film? How many people in this room, Esther Anderson has made, I've seen it as well. Myself and Justine. There are a lot of, how many people have seen the documentary? I asked before, not many. 3, 4. Yeah. But this film has had an impact because you have gone to see it. And you know, twice, 3 times, some of you, Nancy, around the back, 4 times. So, you know, that is the kind of impact that starts these questions. We have to go further. We have to make sure that this series gets told. I mean, it is up to the family. It will always be up to the family because you are portraying a real person. And it's not until how many years after, well, how does copyright run? What? 100 years. So in
100 years after they've deceased.
After they have deceased. So it's a long time. Family controls. But I think it can happen. I think they will listen if somebody wants to tell the story. And the episodes, we have heard so many episodes. Esther's story is another episode. And the foundation, the Paul Esther Anderson. The story of Peter Tosh's story. They're trying to tell it. The story of Lee Scratch Perry. Those scripts are out there. I've seen them. Danny Sims. Danny Sims. There is a story of Skill. 10 years ago, Skill Cole had, I can't remember the name of the company that was behind him, but they wanted to produce his story, but he could not get the rights to the music. And they didn't want to do it without the music. There is a lot of stories. There's Diane's story. there is of course Cindy's story. There is, I mean, you know, there are so many stories, so many episodes to Bob Marley, the Prophet.
Thank you for that. It's 8:20, man. Meet us back tomorrow, same time, same place. You know, come with Toto and Rondong and yes, man. And make sure the fry fish well fried and the escovitch stay good. But I hope that this was an opportunity for you to, one, understand what went into the making of this movie. By the way, we were at 45 when I looked at this. What a way Dennis Trust made him phone. We are now 55 people, right, watching online. Let me thank you again. So thank you very much. Let me say to you that sitting here this evening and hearing your comments, seeing the reactions on your faces, etc., listening to the panelists, it is very clear to me that what this has done is kind of a lift up. You know, when I'm not a racing person out of the track, and them have the horses, them line up, and then them gonna let them out. A time for bolt. No pun intended, right? But it's not something that has happened so. No, Jamaican movie can't get 70 million US for just mix. It don't work that way. And that is why we're really in a funny way. Yes, it's been commercialized for obvious reasons, but it has put Jamaica on the map in a way that it kind of move a certain kind of positioning back over to the conscious music. Notice where I'm going. I don't want to call too much. You get right? The conscious music. And if the young people are now being exposed to the conscious music and not your pantaloons, then I'm good. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. So, Miss Julie, might I invite you to come forward and tell these people that you have run down for them? No, man, you want to face them, don't you? Eh?
Not really.
I'm just
Thank you very much.
Julie needs
Right.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody. May I first acknowledge the Edna Manley Foundation directors who are here with us, Sharon Lake and family, Alan Lewis, Joseph Manley, and Chairman Joseph Matalon. Thank you so much for all the support for this. Members of the Manley family, Glyn, Ria and Maya, and others who have joined us online. Island Smiles, Dr. Jeffrey Meeks, thank you so much for your support, especially for the streaming. The Regardles Committee, Glyn Manley again, Shelly Ann Thompson, and Kemar, who helped you to park, I hope. Christopher, for your orchids and the art that you see on the wall, thanks so much. And of course, for my contributors, starting with Justine. I know your little gifts are, yes, being brought. Thank you so much. They're in the wrong place, because I thought I was speaking at that mic. Yeah. And thank you so much, Justine Hensel. Justine, you have been really tremendous. I would send an email and Justine would respond like within 30 seconds. Thank you. Diane Jobson. Diane, the Rasta woman, I really appreciate everything for you. Natalie Thompson, filmmaker extraordinaire.
I'm sorry, I'm going to be standing in front of you taking these pictures. I have to capture them.
And Johnny Black.
Can you just step to your left a little bit, Julie?
step to my left.
Your left. Your left. I'm sorry, I'm blocking it. Everybody just look forward a little bit coming up, please.
But you're going to miss yours.
No, man, I'm the least right here, so now. Hold on a moment. Ready? Look forward for me, please.
Look forward.
Look forward for me. That no boxing.
And our moderator extraordinaire, who provided so much more support than just this moderating. Faye Ellington, everybody. Really, thank you so much. Everybody who has come tonight, really appreciate that. And outside we have some hot pumpkin soup and some cold coconut water, or just regular water, if anybody would like. And please remember that you too can have your copy of Edna Manley Sculptor for only $4,500 outside. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night.
Was somebody's... Hold on, yes.
Please turn back around. Listen, it's hard to set up a shot with somebody. Get over there, please. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Wow. We pulled it up. No, the minutes is for your soup. For your soup. Soup, but I'll have some for you. Thank you. When next you hear that something is happening at Regardless, make sure you book your seat online if you can't be here. Regardless is the name of the property where Norman Manley and Edna Manley lived, right? So there you go. In the Added Crescent area, just come up before you go to Washington Drive, and you can come by and book an appointment and look at what the place is like. Very humble beginnings, rather very humble surroundings, because there were not people to live big and over the top. Walk good till next time.